Hello, hello. All right, this just happened today. Summer Lee has officially introduced articles of impeachment against Pam Bondi. And before anybody jumps to conclusions, before people say this is political or political hit job, I want to see for yourself. I want you to see for yourself what she has said. Here is Miss Summer.
I just introduced articles of impeachment against Pam Bondi. She has been obstructing justice, weaponizing the DOJ against Trump's political enemies, and just breaking the law. It's time that she is held accountable. Last summer, I forced a bipartisan motion to subpoena the DOJ and Bondi herself. We demanded the full unredacted Epstein files, but for the identities of survivors. Since then, Bondi has refused to release the full files in violation of both our subpoena and the law, and her DOJ even hid files on survivors who reported abuse by President Trump. We live in a country where we have one reality for everyday people and another for the rich, the well-connected, and the well-protected. And that cannot continue to be our reality. Pam Bondi deserves to be held accountable, but this is also about what we want our government to be and who we want it to work for. Do we want our institutions to get away with protecting the wealthy and powerful? Or do we want our government working for the people, fighting for justice for survivors, and standing with us when powerful people break the law? This is our chance to get justice, to hold people accountable who time and again have gotten away with screwing us over. So if you're mad right now, if you're frustrated thinking that the people in power aren't listening to you, or if you're pissed off because every single day in the news you see another billionaire getting richer while you're struggling to get by, then just know that I'm right there with you. We're starting with Pam Bondi, but we won't stop until anyone responsible for this cover up, for abusing women and girls, exploiting working people, and breaking the law is held accountable, no matter their title, their political party, or how rich they are. I just introduced articles.
So this is not rumor. It's not rumor anymore. It's not hyperbole. What you just heard was a member of Congress putting formal charges on the record against Pam Bondi. And this is the mistake a lot of people make. They think impeachment means you have to have proof. You don't have to have proof. It starts with the allegations and serious enough that they cannot be ignored. So everybody saw that hearing that lady did. Everybody saw the hearing that Pam Bondi went to. Okay. What's being alleged here? This is not small. Okay. Let's take a look at what the article says. Let me pull the article up. Because I was surprised that she went even this far. That it even got this far. Hold on. Here's the article. Okay. The article. Impeaching Pam Bondi, Attorney General of the United States for high crimes and misdemeanors. High crimes and misdemeanors. Okay. So she has introduced this impeachment against Pam Bondi. Okay. It says the Jeffrey Epstein files contain information related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and was deemed necessary by the committee in order to resolve the fundamental factual questions relating to Jeffrey Epstein's ties with political leaders. So she's introduced it. No opinion, no commentary, just the charges, right? Article 1, obstruction of Congress. That's Article 1. Okay? Because she introduced several articles. Article 1 is obstruction of Congress, refusing to comply with a lawful subpoena, which is what Pam Bondi has done. Pam Bondi, by refusing to release all of the files, that's what you have done. You have said you're not going to release those things. Okay? That right there, that's not an attitude. That's not tone. That's saying Congress asked for something legally and it was ignored. Article 2. Article 2 is violating federal transparency laws. That's article number 2. She introduced several articles. Article number 2, violating federal transparency laws, meaning information that the public has a right to see was withheld by Pam Bondi. Article 3, abuse of prosecutorial power. Now, this is where it gets serious because that's the power to decide who gets charged and who does not. She has abused, Pam Bondi has abused this power. Article 4, defiance of court authority. Now, this is where this is not what they're talking about in Congress. They're talking about going to court to prove this. Defiance of court authority. Okay. Article 5, false or misleading testimony, which means what was said under oath may not have been truthful. We all saw her under that testimony at the committee. Okay. Everyone. That's not one issue. That's a pattern of her lying, covering up, scheming, trying to stay below the fray. And this is where I need people to connect the dots. Okay. Because some of you watched that hearing and some of y'all saw the behavior, the deflection, the dismissiveness, the refusal to answer straight questions. And maybe you thought, okay, she's just being tough. She's just acting up, or she's just being the way she is. Nope. What you were seeing may have been a preview for when she gets in front of the committee. I think she's been subpoenaed for the committee. I don't know when the subpoena is for, but she's been subpoenaed for the committee. Okay, so when people sit down in front of elected officials and then you raise your hand and tell the truth, nothing but the truth, then you're supposed to do that. See, she did that and acted like the questions didn't matter because she kept deflecting. Do y'all know the gas prices are X, Y, and Z? Do y'all know inflation was X, Y, and Z? I don't know what she was talking about. Okay? What she did, it didn't project confidence. It didn't project trust in the Attorney General of the United States. That was someone who didn't want to feel accountable for her actions. So now you're looking at what matters. What matters is this subpoena. What matters is these articles. Because here's the thing. She didn't respect the questions. So now you're going to respect the subpoena. Let's hope you respect the subpoena. So let's be clear about something. The Attorney General is the top law enforcement officer in this country. That position depends on one damn thing: trust in the system. Trust the laws that are followed. Trust that oversight is respected. Trust that no one is above the law. She put Donald Trump's feelings above the law. Now she's going to have to pay for it. So what happens now? This person in the role is being accused of ignoring Congress, ignoring transparency laws, ignoring the courts, and misleading under oath. The problem, she's going to go to jail for that if they find her guilty of this. The problem is not political. It's a structural thing. Okay? Because now we're asking questions like, did she act wrong? Was she acting within the scope of her job? Does the system still have the power to check somebody like this? We are supposed to be able to check somebody like this. She's the Attorney General of the United States. And she seems to be covering up a crime. And a lot of people get uncomfortable with this. Okay? Because if this was somebody else, somebody people didn't like, there would be no debate. If you like Pam Bondi, you thought Pam Bondi did amazing. You thought Pam Bondi was all that in a bag of chips. If you like Pam Bondi. But if you saw it for what it was, you saw her hearing for what it was, an Attorney General covering for the president, you should have outrage. Okay? So we don't get to pick and choose when standards apply. That's not how that works. Either the standards matter as an Attorney General or they don't. Okay? And this is why impeachment exists. Every person that has worked with Donald Trump is finna be impeached. Damn near. Remember when they were going to introduce articles of impeachment about Hegseth? I think the FBI guy is the only one that we haven't heard anything about impeachment. Okay? This is why impeachment exists. Not to punish people, not to grandstand, but to say these allegations are serious enough that we have to investigate them publicly. Because if you can, ignore subpoenas, ignore the laws, ignore the courts, and still stay in power like nothing happened, like you didn't do nothing wrong, then this accountability is not real, that people keep saying that they want to have. Accountability is optional. This is the way this administration seems to be acting. Accountability is optional. And if accountability is optional, then power answers to no one. Okay? The power answers to no one. Okay. So these are not the headlines. These are the charges against Pam Bondi, and they're on record. So we shall see. And I'll be back. I'll see you in the next one.